This is a brief overview of where to find apps in the Google G Suite and what they do. There will be more in-depth videos in the blended learning form. So the first thing that we do when we're looking for our G Suite apps is we could Google them, or like I tell my students, we could use the Rubik's Cube up in the upper right-hand corner. I like to stay signed in to Google Chrome, but you might just be signed in to Google within Google Chrome, and that's okay too, but you'll still be able to find all of this on the actual page. So Gmail is always there, Images is always there, and then we have this Rubik's Cube. So go ahead and click on that and you'll see all of the things that are available to you through G Suite for Education. This will be very different from using your personal account. There are some things that are available to you in a personal account that aren't here, and vice versa. Obviously, Gmail or Google Drive, we'll take a look at that first. Google Drive is a catch-all. It contains all of the things that you create. You can use it as, think of it as your spot on the network. For those of us who started teaching when you had a spot on a physical network, that's what this is. You can organize things in several different ways, and we'll get to that later in a special video. There's also Classroom. We're going to use Classroom a lot as a portal to give students information and assignments. Treat Google Docs just like you would treat Word documents. There are a few features in Docs that are unavailable, but there are many more features that make Docs better than Word, I think. Sheets is the same thing as Excel. Slides is the same thing as PowerPoint. Of course, you have access to your calendar, which, by the way, your classroom communicates with your calendar. So any upcoming assignment due dates you'll be able to see in your North Ark Creek calendar. Google Meet, this is where you can either set this up within your classroom so that you can have live sessions with your students, or if you needed to, you could use this as an alternative to Zoom. It works well with Calendar and it works well with Classroom, so that might be a good idea. And it's free. There's no limit. It has limited capabilities compared to Zoom, but it's still pretty great. Google Sites, there's actually new sites and there's old sites. One of them is for those of us who like to code, and the other one, the new Google Sites, is for those of us who just want to give a digital platform to students or digital content to students. Your contacts, obviously, those are contacts. You can create groups within our school system here. And then, of course, you have search, which is just google.com. Some of these I have had added myself. Some of these come standard with your G Suite. But I'll quickly review it. These are obviously, we might be using YouTube quite a bit. And I'll talk a little bit more about what settings we probably want to use for YouTube. Google Maps has some cool interactive things you might be using. GNews is relatively intuitive, but it's not always reliable. So as your librarian, I would hesitate to suggest you use that. I'd rather you used EBSCOhost, but you do you. We all have photos, and so you could use that on your phone. You could use the Photos app on your phone and take and save photos of things in your classroom and have them here. The Vault is, as far as I remember, unnecessary for us because we're not dealing with long-term storage strategies right now. Google Hangouts is a chat feature that I believe is disabled for students, but it is not disabled for faculty. Google Forms, I don't know why it's down here. It really needs to be up here. Is there any room? Google Forms I use all of the time. I use that for quizzes, and you're actually viewing this on Google Forms. So we'll talk a lot about that later. Google Keep, I use this. You may have seen that when I clicked on Google Drive. It's a note-keeping app. You don't need cloud search, really. It's intuitive. Google Earth, same thing as Google Maps. And then Jamboard is an interactive online whiteboard. It's not as cool as some of the other ones, but it is free to us and it works with Google Drive, so that's always a plus. You'll see I have some things added down here. These are specific things that I've added from G Suite Marketplace. They're not necessary, but I do use those quite a bit. So this is the very, very brief overview of all the apps that are available to us. Now, if you'd like to know more about a specific app, go ahead and hit up those videos. Thanks for watching.